How are you? Good to meet you.
In a little bit.
Okay, so we just get the logistics under control here and we get the show on the road. One hour. Perfect. Thank you. Nice to meet you, good sir. I don't know, but it looks good. Okay, so if everybody can just occupy. So what I want to do this morning, if it's possible, is deal with a couple of interesting topics. So the first thing we will do is we won't ask them for opening statements or presentations or anything like that. We'll do a kind of a quick fire question round to see how people react in terms of the things. So we're going to deal with three principal topics. First of all, the post-COVID recovery, what happened, how you managed, and what your ideas are. The second thing, of course, is sustainability. What specifically you're doing in your airlines for sustainability. So we're not really interested in all of the global initiatives and the, Fit for 55 and all this kind of bull. We're interested in specifically what you're actually doing. And then thirdly, we're going to look at the future. How do we roll out for the future? So first of all, Eamon Brennan is my name. I'm the DG of Eurocontrol. By and large, ignore anything I say. It's designed to kind of push you guys a little bit and create a little bit of interest. It's a little bit hard to hear in the hall, so if you want to use these mic or earphones, you can probably hear us a little bit better. So I'm going to start off, and what we'll do is we'll start with the lady. Always a good place to start. So we'll start with you, Gullies. So you're in Pegasus in Turkey. Now, I've been watching Pegasus for a while. Turkish Airlines were on the ground. You were flying a lot. How did you do it after COVID? Why did you do it and they couldn't?
Actually, hello everyone, first of all. Maybe putting it in a more national level, actually Turkey was one of the outperformance when we check globally, which had recovered back due to its extensive domestic traffic strength. That was for sure. We also stopped for about 2.5 months when we have COVID first in March 2020, and we were quick to come back in June, by 1st of June, again 2020. What we have done actually to bring back the capacity into the market, we've started with the domestic operations, of course, and then as the traffic limitations got easier and the bans are lifted, we started operating internationally. We had 3 task force within the company since the first day of COVID. One was we had 4C strategy: CASK, cost, capacity, and customer. So we had 3 task force: cash, cost, the other one is capacity, the third one was customer. So the capacity task force, they had daily and weekly checked out cash-generating flights.
Okay.
So our aim was to perform cash-generating flights because we were blind in terms of demand. We had no demand, foreseeing no demand. So this cash task force and the capacity one, they worked in parallel. And also we had planned our resources, especially the crew, pilot and cabin crew, in line with our capacity. So having an agile muscle
Helped you a lot.
Helped a lot. Decision-making processes, because decision makers were in the groups. It wasn't something that you talk here and then decide somewhere else.
Okay.
That was our
your methodology. Can I move to Fly Dubai? Kate, I want to ask you the same question. I'm a great guy for looking at statistics, but you have something in common with Ryanair. You and Ryanair were the fastest recovering airlines after the COVID to put flights back in the air straight away. So how did you do it? What's the secret?
Well, hello, thank you very much. Well, very simple, we are, the most important thing was our environment here in the United Arab Emirates. Our president, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, when the problem occurred with COVID, he said to everybody in this country, let's shilu ham. Then do not take any pressure on you as individual we will take care of you. And he was true to that statement, to the extent that the United Arab Emirates was the first country to open up, and we started accepting passenger. Say, I mean, in March, the pandemic started in 2020. By July 2020, we started flying regular flights. Of course, we started even before. To the extent we are here in Fly Dubai, by November, after reducing our cost and delaying some of our payment, we were actually cash positive as a company.
Okay.
20 November. And alhamdulillah, because of the country is open and we could take passenger, we did not actually take a penny of government support. And that was also something that we are very proud of. One of the things that we did very well in Fly Dubai is that we did not let go of our staff. You know, we gave people the option to stay with the company, of course, with no pay. And 97% of the people we took back because they wanted to come back, and we took them back.
Okay.
At the same time also, because we are in this country and we can see that things is recovering, in 2020, we made a decision to take 30 aircraft, new aircraft, in 2021 and 2022. So we were already preparing to grow when the whole of the world was shrinking. And that's why right now in Fly Dubai, we are actually 50% bigger than we were before COVID.
That's a really good point. You're 50% bigger than you were before the pandemic. We see some of this coming in Europe as well. Maine, can I ask you a question? If you were to go back 2 years and you were to do it all again, what would you do different?
So first of all, thanks for having us here. As much as it's a reality, I'm not as lucky as my friend Ghaith of
Yes.
what happened to them, but we are very optimistic in Kuwait Airways. So I cannot go 2 years because I've only been in the job a year.
Yeah, but that's an advantage.
And you know, and I think the reality of the matter that 2022 is the transition year
Yes.
for the industry. We are building what we call our Beyond Excellence transformation programs that will set us into what we want to name as a Beyond Growth
Okay.
23. So the optimism comes with the fact that, yes, customer is first. Second, customer is first. And third, customer is first.
Okay.
When we understand what does that mean and put execution plans, then the transition will be very easy for us to fill the planes, provide the premium and products that the customer realize its necessity, as much as grow our network beyond our historical standpoints. And this is, in a summary, what Kuwait Airways is about as we transform into our Beyond Excellence program that was launched early this year and will take us into 2030 in acceleration.
Thank you. Antonaldo, you're the new guy on the block. Sailed into town, taken over at the very first conference, so you don't have any baggage. So maybe the best way to deal with you on this panel would be to say, look, Willie Walsh, the DG of IATA, blames the governments for all of the travel restrictions, for all of the meltdown in the air transport industry. You know, what would be your reaction to that statement, that basically the problem was not the virus, the problem was the government's misjointed and fragmented reactions in Europe, in Middle East, all over the States. We all did things differently. So a guy said to me once, there's one virus, there's 40 different cures.
Asking me to comment on Willie. That's a tough spot to be in, right? I mean, I think COVID actually helped everyone to be on the same table together.
Okay.
That's what I take from COVID. What I take from COVID is, I mean, of course, I mean, in the very early days, nobody had a clue what to do, right? it was really complicated. Of course, each and everyone could have done better, right? For instance, airlines, right now in the recovery phase, the sector could have done better, right? If you see the level of problems we have in the operations across the globe, so I could have governments pointing fingers at the airlines and at our sector, right? That we're not doing a good job because we have problems across the globe in terms of the way we're coming back operations. So I don't think it's time to find who is guilty. You see what I mean? Who is to blame for? It was a very complex, biggest challenge of my life.
Okay.
I think that the crisis we faced together with the government, with the airlines, with the airport, with everyone. I mean, everyone had the best intention in their heart. Everyone nobody knew what would happen, right? And I mean, we all made mistakes through that process. And that's fine, because I think in the end, everyone was scared at first, right? Everyone was scared. I mean, it's very, I mean, I would be, I don't want to be unfair with anyone, but reality is it was a challenging situation. And the most important thing is to learn from it, as we discussed it earlier, and look forward. I mean, I don't want to be looking backwards, blaming anyone, because I think it's behind us. I think COVID is past, and now I'm looking for the future. Let's build it together, and that's it.
Okay, so we're going to just give Henrik, and I'll come back to you, Gulistan. Henrik, the European Union, 27 member states, 27 different reactions to COVID. So what would your lesson be? Forget about the future, just how we actually handle the pandemic. I want to get this out of the way before we move on to more juicy topics. So if you were doing it again, okay, 2 years ago, same question I asked the CEO of Kuwait, what would you do differently? First of all, I'll give you a microphone.
Thank you, and let me start by, of course, saying a very good afternoon to everyone, and want to thank my friend Abdul Wahab for inviting me here again. And it's my 7th ARCO AGM, and I really feel very proud and privileged for being here and also enjoying the kind hospitality of Etihad and the Abu Dhabi. Look, afterwards, we are all very clever, and we say a lot of things which could have been done differently. But of course, like it was said also earlier, we were in a situation where nobody had actually been before, and nobody knew what to do. Clearly, there was a lot of overreaction. Now, hindsight, one can say, being, of course, possessing all the information that we didn't have at the moment. But I think one thing is clear. Virus does not know any national borders. So closing down the borders did not really help much from that perspective. I think that what would have been important would have been to agree as fast as possible the rules of the game, and then try to see from the regional to the global perspective what these rules are. I think a lot of precious work was done in ICAO on the CART, which actually was done quite fast, and this could have been done even faster, if you say now hindsight. And the other great thing, of course, which helped to open up the travel in Europe massively, but also beyond, was the digital COVID certificate that actually became the global gold standard, and where today you have more than 80 countries who have joined in, and which made it very easy because you have the mutual recognition, you can travel to third countries everywhere, but in particular in Europe it opened up the travel a lot in 2021. And the third thing, which I would say also was, and I think there we were quite quick, was to issue also the health safety protocols, because without that, airlines found themselves in a situation where they didn't know what to apply. And health safety protocols, which were in Europe issued by the European Aviation Safety Agency as well as the European Center for Disease Control, so they had the blessing from aviation and the blessing from the health side. this helped at least airlines to organize their operations in summer 2020, and at least we had some degree of connectivity and activity in 2020, which we wouldn't have had otherwise. So I'd say we should take not a local, not even a regional, but a global approach as much as possible. This is, I think, the first thing what to do differently. Secondly, to issue the common, let's say, health safety protocols, which would mean that which would then be the guidance for the airlines how to organize their work, and definitely to make sure that you have digital tools which allow also to travel around and to be able to enter countries without major hassle, because that, I think, this patchwork, which still is present, is actually something which is hindering the travel. And also, even today, you have different practices. There are airlines which require still masks on board of the aircraft, and this is something which, for example, is not substantiated anyway by the health safety protocols. Yeah, I think that we can do better for sure, and I think that next time when a pandemic comes, we already know what to do. But if something else will come, then again, I think we start from the scratch.
Thank you, Henrik. So, Gulis, I'm going to give you the final word on the COVID situation.
Okay, fine, but I was just
You're going to build on
thing. I mean, because we were the ones who were impacted as the airlines. So many tough days. So I just want to spend some more time on it for the lessons learned on the global level for the governments.
Okay. All right. So I just want to build on the COVID theme, if I can, for a moment, and I want to do one round of the panel on what's changed your business. So going forward, we've now had COVID. What's changed going forward? So how has your business changed? So I think the Fly Dubai answer was a good place to start, because obviously your business has got better and has got bigger. We've noticed in Europe, some of the low-cost carriers have got stronger and some of the legacy carriers have got weaker. So maybe if we just take the Fly Dubai experience, and if you could tell me, for the next 3 or 4 years, what's the lessons? How are you going to expand? What are you going to do that's different as a result of the pandemic? You have the floor, sir.
Yes, for us, same thing. It is our home, the United Arab Emirates and the UAE. I think the United Arab Emirates, because of what happened during COVID and how we have reacted and opened the country, and also we hosted in Dubai Expo 21, where we processed 25 million visitors in 6 months. Security checked, health checked, and everything went smooth. And to be honest with you, that was a huge achievement, because it enabled the world to come together and do business when nobody else were doing business. So what did that do? That created a strong demand now for our country, for people to come for business and for leisure. And hence why we accelerate our growth, because we have the confidence now as an airline that we can be bigger and better, because of our hometown is now a stronger product. And I think this is for us the main lesson from the pandemic. I just wanted to comment, if you don't mind, on the pandemic, because there are a lot of discussion here. Definitely we need to learn from this, and definitely we should not close the border again. I mean, we should declare we will never close the border again. It has to be that loud, because the crippling of what happened to the world by closing the border, thank God we are having an airline now to fly. And our example should be the example that should be compared to that. Look what happened in the United Arab Emirates, because we opened sooner. So that's number one. And the other issue, when we were talking about the future and how we can learn from this, and how the airline, because the airline are always being seen as a place where government can make taxes from. Okay, that money should be reinvested into making our industry better during pandemic time, or in the future during any crisis. Sorry.
That's really good. So there's a very important point, I think, that you made there about don't close the borders again. I think that's really, really succinct and really important. Can I move to Kuwait? You have a drive for profitability. You have a new business plan. So can you run through what you're going to do different for the next 5 years? Because I saw from your business plan you're pushing hard now to make a profit and to start moving forward. So what's the big lessons for the next 4 or 5 years post-COVID for you?
Yeah, and I think that's the responsibility of any businesses to ensure that their shareholders retain the highest value. And you need sometimes crisis to teach you something. And I think if there is a learning from COVID, and we gained, unfortunately, a learning path from it, is how to focus on your business, the core, and how do you become emotionless about the non-core. So today, we are less emotional in Kuwait Airways around our history, around our legacy, and now our focus is around maximizing our share value through a customer centricity focus program, but most importantly, opening the envelope for partnerships. And that happened in COVID. And we have established more than 4 partnerships since the pandemics. And this is with partners across the Middle East and Europe. And we will be looking forward to what we will be announcing, very soon, with our host coming forward. So opening, partnership, collaboration, emotionless, focus on the core is definitely going to be a game changer without diversifying from your core business. We are a conventional airline. We serve the state of Kuwait as a national carrier, but now we are expanding our offering to the globe through a growth of our network of around 50% year over year, as much as partnering with whoever wants to partner with Kuwait Airways. So we're very open, we're committed, but we're also very optimistic and excited.
Okay, so a good point I'm taking from what you're saying is never lose a good crisis. You've utilized it very well to make some very, very good changes. Henrik, can I turn to you for a moment? I'm interested to see is what do you see the changes in the general airline business models that have come from COVID? Has anything changed? Do you see a change? So maybe you might just be specific now.
I think that, we are talking a lot about building back better, whatever that exactly means, but it means, I think, as far as I can see, is that, you turn a new page and you actually don't want to come back where you were, but you want to look much more in the future and use the crisis, or have been using the crisis also for the benefit of preparing for the future, which of course would mean that you have to have more resilience, you have to have clearly more business continuity planning. One thing that we, for example, observed in Europe as well was that the airlines which had more cash reserves were in a much better position to start their operations. They had much more flexibility and they were not dependent on the handouts coming from the government. But if we look at the more wider scale and what kind of, from a regulator perspective as well, and what kind of elements you can draw looking at the future, I think one of the things which became very clear during the pandemic was the fact that we have sometimes underestimated the importance of cargo. And during the deep time of pandemics, 2020 in particular, but also 2021, it was the cargo operations which allowed many airlines to keep on flying. And not only that they kept on flying and converted also some of their passenger planes into cargo planes, but the fact was that they were absolutely essential to provide the medical products, to provide the vaccines, and I think this is something which was particularly important, and where also the airlines in these regions played an absolutely essential role for the global, I would say, vaccine connectivity. So we need to also look at the cargo business. We need to make sure that the cargo liberalization goes on, and also an issue which is being discussed on the global level as well. Sometimes we simply have been too much focused on the passenger traffic than on the cargo traffic. The other element, I think, which we have seen and which is now being also boosted by the, well, I would say availability, probably the better word is emergence, because there is more demand than there is supply at the moment, but the emergence of new single-aisle, longer-haul aircrafts. And this is also an interesting development, which at least in Europe is also been substantiated by the numbers, which is and which we also see coming in the transatlantic market, for example, where JetBlue, as a new entrant, intends to fly with the single-aisle aircraft, where also Frontier is looking at the possibilities, and not flying from hubs, but also flying from the secondary airports. I think this is a very interesting development, because some of the secondary airports have been very keen over the long time to have more connectivity, direct connectivity, direct long-haul or longer-haul connectivity, which has not been possible in the past. And of course, this is something which is also challenging to a certain extent the business models what the hub carriers have created, at least in Europe. But I think it's come to stay with the 321 XLR, also with the MAX, with the extended range. I mean, these are definitely the kind of aircraft which will create more options in the portfolio, and I think create also more activities when it comes to the secondary airports, more in Europe, but also beyond.
Thanks, Henrik. Antonello, can I ask you maybe to comment on this? How do you see the development of the market over the next 3 or 4 years, specifically the future of hubs like London Heathrow, to an extent Dubai? I mean, is hub and spoke something that's going to have a difficult time, or point to point? It's an old argument, but what's your view?
This come and goes, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's very, very cyclical, right? I mean, in the beginning of the days of Southwest, they didn't even connect any customer. Today, they connect a lot. And so I don't see this as an or problem. It's one or the other, but it's and. So before coming here, I was leading an airline that we had a hub, and in addition to that, we had a point-to-point operation. So I think opportunity is there for you to grab. I don't think it's one or the other. I think you're going to have airlines flying to London, Heathrow, that are going to be doing, as you just mentioned, right, JetBlue, which is a big partner of us.
Okay.
I mean, they do point-to-point to Europe, right? And they hub in Orlando. They hub in JFK. So I think it's not either or. I think the beauty of the airline business over the past 10, 15 years is that we've been learning to adapt and adjust our models to whatever we have in the market. And it's not one or the other, in my view. I mean, we see low-cost carriers connecting to full.
So you're saying both will survive, but maybe I could put two kind of examples to you. Why would you fly to Heathrow from Glasgow if you can fly from Glasgow to Minneapolis, Glasgow to New York, number one? And number two, why would you stop in Dubai if you can fly from London straight to Perth?
I mean, you
consumer-wise.
You know that a non-stop flight is going to be more expensive, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
There's always going to be a place for a passenger that wants
Yeah.
to connect and pay 30-40% less. So the answer is very, very, very simple. I don't see any.
You don't see a problem.
I don't see any issue. I mean, and let me be, with all due respect, I think the 321 LR and the 737 MAX, I mean, these are planes that were thought before COVID. So I don't see the single island phenomena as something that is coming out of COVID. I think it's something that has been there for a while. The 757 has been a great plane for that about 20, 25 years ago. So I think we're just doing more efficiently, I mean, more sustainable, and better the customer service. I mean, we could not have a lie flat seat in a single island a plane some time ago. And today we can have.
Okay, all right. I want to talk about difficult markets, and one of the more difficult markets in Europe, in my estimation, is Turkey. So you're operating as the little brother airline in Turkey, and Fly Dubai is operating as the little brother airline in Dubai. It's tricky. So what's your unique offering that makes you different than Turkish Airlines? We have the chairman. So what's different
Yes,
than
we
you?
have our
Where
colleagues
is he
there.
there?
We're sitting next to each other.
So without offending him, but at the same time,
course.
what's better about what you do
There's no
than
need,
Turkish?
There's no need to offend. You're right, because why? Turkey is actually a very attractive market.
Yeah.
After COVID, we have seen a good amount of incoming traffic to Turkey, which we have seen after COVID. Domestic traffic is strong. You know, I mean, we fly about 35 destinations. Turkish is flying about 52 destinations within the domestic. Internationally, it has received a huge amount of leisure traffic this year, for example.
Okay.
What's unique with us? So we can live together. I mean,
Yeah, there's
so
room
there are
for
two
both of you.
airlines is okay in Turkey. That's why there's no need. What is unique for Pegasus? When we first started, I think the differentiator was deliberately choosing our hub, Istanbul Sabiha Gökçen Airport. That was the first starting point. That was the main differentiator, because the catchment area of Sabiha Gökçen has, with the neighboring cities, Istanbul, is addressing to different segments: leisure, VFR, business. The second one is the business model. That was the first and the only in Turkey, was very new. Was it easy for the customers to accept this model, especially Turkish customers? No. I have lots of memories and stories, but the time is limited here, so I cannot tell. But sometimes you can, in other maybe conferences, we can talk about this. So this was unique for Pegasus, the business model, so the offering, the low fares, the relentless focus on low-cost principles within the company brought the success actually to us, and this was that made traveling people, Turkish customers, traveling more frequently, and maybe for the first time, the youngsters, for example, were able to fly. So the offering, the first started with the hub, the airport, and then the low fares, the operational efficiency, which also helps this. The second one is that we are committed to be the digital airline of Turkey, where we have we aim and try to make the traveling easier with us using technology. That's maybe the third important pillar, I may say.
Good, thanks. Again, can I come to you again about the same point, and I'm going to change topic then. I want to talk to you about the future of low-cost travel in the Gulf. So if we're looking at this region here, your model is fundamentally, I would say, different than the Wizz Airs and the Ryanairs and the EasyJets. You know, you're a little bit upmarket, a little bit more better. But where do you see the market potential for you in this region? I mean, do you think that you can take on the majors, the Emirates, your big brothers, and all these guys, you know, and you can make a little place? Do you think that you've got a very good future, or you know, what's your growth potential?
Well, can I answer the first question first?
Yeah.
Which is, can I answer the first question first?
Yes.
About our relationship with Emirates. Actually, you know, Fly Dubai was actually created inside the womb of Emirates.
Okay.
And I have the pleasure of guidance of His Highness Sheikh Ahmed bin Saeed Al Maktoum to be my boss.
Yes.
So that's why every good thing that happened in Fly Dubai had to do with him and with Emirates.
Okay.
So that's the main thing. What we done, Fly Dubai, when we were established, and this is how we complement Emirates, we actually fly to over 70 destinations that was not served to and from Dubai before we started. And that's why our partnership now with Emirates, the co-chair that we create, you know, we've carried in the first few years 8.3 million passengers in partnership with Emirates. And we feel that there is a huge synergy between us looking at our network. And we take advantage for that. And Dubai as a hub is actually stronger with Fly Dubai and Emirates working together. Now, going back to our experience and the low-cost things, unfortunately, you know, low-cost, as understood by the West, especially in America and in Europe, does not really work here.
Yeah.
Because for main three reasons. One is the laws. In America or in Europe, it is one law. It applies to all the countries you fly to. Two, it is one governing sort of bilateral law. You can fly anywhere in that jurisdiction
Yes.
Without any restriction. Here, we live in restriction. On top of the different countries that we serve, every country you travel to and from has visa requirement. So people cannot flow as easily as possible. And the third most important point is the customer. In Europe, if you draw a picture, and in America, for your customer, you know, you will draw one picture that will fit 80% of the customer. Here, our customer comes from over 200 different nationalities. So hence why it's very difficult to apply the same low cost, and that's why, you know, in Fly Dubai, we had to sort of adopt and change our product and offering to ensure that we fit the customer base that we have. And alhamdulillah, you know, we are extremely successful as our results show and as we move forward. And we believe that there is a lot yet. I mean, you talked about what is the evolution of the hubs and what will happen in the future. Again, I think hubs, strong hubs will always be there. When you mentioned Dubai as a hub, actually before Dubai was a big hub, okay? Holland, you know, Amsterdam was a big hub. Singapore was a big hub. They did not go away. They're still there. It's just that it's evolved. The different traffic that will go to point-to-point traffic will grow to certain destination.
A different
new
model.
market will come up, and that's why, you know, you have to evolve the hub also, make it stronger. In my opinion. So for Fly Dubai, we are in a very fortunate position, being in the United Arab Emirates and especially in Dubai, the sort of center point of the aviation industry, and we have a bright future.
Okay, so I've got to follow up on this because you made a really good point here, and I've got to take it up with Henry Colaloy. And the issue of what I would call access to markets. You know, one of your differences with European low cost and American low cost is they can decide to fly from Liverpool to, you know, Sofia in the morning. Don't ask anybody. You've got bilaterals, you've got activities. So let's get really specific here now, Henrik. So what's your opinion for the Gulf region of what would you advise them to do now to develop their market? If you were the top guy here, what would you do?
Well, the Gulf region has a very developed aviation sector, and it is also something where you can see that there are more and more new entrants also coming in from the different Gulf countries, which shows that it's very vibrant, and also at the same time it is very competitive. So I think that this has been largely achieved, and it is good to see the different companies also having slightly different business models and serving different customers. Now, looking at it also from the European perspective, I think what is extremely important at this moment is to try to pursue the open markets, because also the pandemic, and we talked about how the countries were closing the borders because of the virus, but they have also started much more to close the borders for the trade, and there have also been all kinds of new barriers that didn't exist, and that might also extend to aviation. So that's why it is very important to have the predictable legal frameworks also for the cooperation, and I'm very, very happy that last year we signed the comprehensive air transport agreement with Qatar, and we are just about to finish our signing with friends from Oman, and we have always declared that we are open to discuss with any Gulf country for creating not only just open markets, but creating extensive aviation partnerships, which would also serve as win-win for both sides and cover, of course, the wide range of topics from safety and security to sustainable, but also to the common understanding of the competition. And we have also proved that we can do that on the global scale. I just last week was in Bali, Indonesia, where I signed on behalf of the EU the comprehensive air transport agreement between the EU and ASEAN countries, which is 37 countries, the second largest agreement in the world after the Chicago Convention, so in the last 78 years. And also an agreement which opened up the market for more than 1 billion people and creating a real aviation partnership. So we are continuing to pursue this policy and hope that it will also continue to inspire other countries and just to maintain the openness of aviation and, of course, having the common understanding of the competition in this context. I think this is the best remedy. I mean, this region here has also shown that they are for the open aviation because they have always kept markets open. But, of course, from our side, it is very important that we have the necessary framework, necessary predictable legal framework, which allows also to look at issues just beyond the market and create the partnership that are needed. So this is definitely something that I see as a win-win, and we will continue to pursue also further on because it has benefited a lot the European passenger, it has benefited a lot also the businesses from both sides and the passengers, I think, throughout the globe.
Thanks, Henrik. So, Men, can I turn to you for a moment? I'm going to change the topic and ask you a nasty question.
Sure.
What are you doing about sustainability in your airline? I want to just give me the top bullets. Specifically, what do you do?
So it's not a nasty question, I think.
It's direct.
It's a rightful question for the time. I spent 23 years of my previous life in an industry that was very focused on sustainability and the environment, which was the oil and gas.
Okay.
And I think that industry today is delivering net zeros. And there are projects and there are, refineries that we were talking about, also the previous slides of Anton here, coming from the refinery, that industry delivered. What helped that is two things. First of all, the regulations was very firm and clear with its timeline and its expectation. On top of it, the technology. So today we are not the technologists. The technologists are the OEMs and O&Ms. The technologies have to come on board with acceleration of these technologies. And that has been something that we are also committed to as we restructure our fleets. And we see that, without branding, X or Y, our new generation of fleet is delivering around 15% reduction in fuel consumption. On top of that, we are putting operational processes to ensure that, could we reduce fuel as we taxi, and should we use APUs, as we land. So we have to also change the standards as much as truly, and I like the previous panel discussion about, try me before you pay me, because we don't want only to try you, we want to drive you.
Okay.
And I think that's a responsibility of the likes of ACO and IATA and ICAO, is how to drive these technologies, accelerate them, because today there is no excuse. We see hybrid cars more and more.
Yeah, electrics.
We see electric cars becoming more affordable. Should we drive sustainability as we fly? Absolutely, yes. But I don't think we're as serious as what we should be when we talk 2050.
Okay.
If you set goals for 2050, I don't think any of us will be sitting here to defend that.
Yeah.
We need to do it 2030 clearly
30-40.
with specific expected deliverables, and then the ball will roll.
That's a really good point, man. I think you've made a really important point, is that personally, and I'm not an engineer, I think I could put somebody on the moon in 2050 because I'm not going to be around. You know, nobody's
hope-
going to be able to hold me
I
account.
hope
So 2050 is, you know, it's so far away, it's in the distance. So I'm coming to Antonaldo. Do you think that we can achieve 50% of the 2050? So forget about 2050. Let's talk 2035. Can we achieve the targets in 2035, or are we engaged in, you know, I'm going to use the nasty word, greenwashing? I mean, because you can agree, aviation, can I just make 3 points? One, our SAF target that we had 10 years ago was 15%. Then we reduced it to 8%. Now we've reduced it to 2% in Europe. So we're not very ambitious. So my question to you, Antonaldo, you're starting to head up Etihad. Will we achieve the 2035 targets, or will we not?
First of all, I wanna.
You don't want to answer the question.
No, I mean, I have already pledged for sustainability.
Yes.
So I don't wanna have any doubt in anyone's mind that sustainability is at the core of what I believe and what Etihad believes.
Yes.
Period. And that's why Etihad is investing massively in new aircraft, in
Okay.
efforts to sustainability. Having said that, I totally reject the notion that we're going to be more sustainable if people travel less.
Okay.
So I think this is nonsense.
Yes.
I think the more we travel, the more we solve our problems.
Okay.
The more we meet people, the more
yeah.
we solve our problems.
I agree.
The more we integrate, the more we're going to be better off.
Okay.
Right? So hiding from the airlines is not the way to go, definitely.
Okay,
Right,
we
so-
take that point. Okay,
So
good.
that's extremely important. Second, I think having long-term goals is extremely important,
Okay,
but reality is what matters is what I'm going to do tomorrow, right? Because otherwise I'll never get there.
so what are you going to do tomorrow?
So first of all, have discussions with the engine manufacturers so that they deliver on the full burn promises.
Okay.
As an example, as in a joke, right? My point is, this is discussing with Eurocontrol, right?
Yeah.
How can we have better air traffic management so that we don't, and I can go on and on and on and on and on, right? This is a multi-dimension problem. It's something that we all have responsibilities, not only as airliners, right? But also as individuals. And I think, I'm not trying to make the problem even more complicated, but I think that the fact that we are discussing the problem,
Okay.
we are taking action upon the problem is extremely important. What I don't want to be is naive and cynical, right?
Okay.
That'll never be.
So
right?
Antonello, though, I'm still waiting for the answer. 2035, are we going to achieve the goals, yes or no?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
It's a goal. I mean, if you ask me if Brazil is going to win the world champion now, I don't know. I mean, it's the goal, right?
Okay.
We have a goal. I mean, what I can assure you is that wherever I'm leading, and that's Etihad now, we're going to do whatever is needed to achieve the goals we define and the goals we abide to.
Okay. So, Maine, I'm going to come back to you because you're nodding your head viciously at me there. So, are you going to achieve the goals by 2035?
We will get there if we are open and committed to invest.
Okay.
But I want to go back to a point because I like what Antoine said earlier, and I totally agree with him. As much as I try to make a comparison to life outside of the aviation industry. There is, I think, a lot of restrictions from the regulators
Okay.
that limit the capability for technologists to accelerate or to develop. As much as there is a limited supply of technologists
Yes.
in this industry, you can count them in one or two hands. There is no other industry in the world that is fully dominated or controlled by a handful.
Yes.
And I don't think that's something that will be sustainable for the 2050 net zero to
Okay.
happen. So
That's
I
fair
think
point.
we should also drive, as much as I was very happy to see some of the digital technology enablement that in the previous panel, but now we need to go into actual physical technologies that will drive that change. We have an excellent relationship with all the suppliers of today, but they are struggling to fulfill demand
Yes.
or accelerate the goals of the
Okay.
industry. So that has to change. Otherwise, we will be
Otherwise
sitting
you're gonna
here
do it.
in 2050 and blaming
Okay.
somebody else for it not happening.
Okay, so can I continue my journey to Dubai now? So you bought an awful lot of new aircraft. I'm looking at your order book. It's good. It's very impressive. CFM, LEAPs, everything. But it's only 13 years' time till 2035, and most of the aircraft you're buying today will probably be still in service. So how do you feel that you're going to get to the target for 2035? Because, you know, it's a tricky one. You're investing huge cash today in existing technology that's got a lifespan of 10 or 12 years. So how are you going to do it?
But before that, every plane is delayed. Do you agree on this? Right? You agree on this? Okay, so
Yeah, but-
that's a starting point.
I want to hear it from himself.
You know, so.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I think, you see, right now you cannot stop growing, you know. You have to continue to grow, and this is not an answer that because there is no technology for aircraft, then I'm going to stop growing. And you ask me if we are going to achieve the targets. Probably we will, you know, because, you know, we're going to work very hard, and our government is committed to do that. But I just wanted to focus again this discussion.
Okay.
Because, you know, we saw what Faha mentioned about the fuel and the zero fuel. I think what is needed is a technology or investment in research and development to bring the industry, to bring us all up to a standard that will allow us to achieve that, right?
Okay.
And we all know that in the airline industry, we are the most taxed industry, or one of the most taxed industry. We pay tax for everything, other than federal tax, you know, on tickets, on everything. There should be some kind of a drive to say part of that money that we are taxed should go to research and development to help the supplier, because the engine manufacturer, the airline, the this, the that, they cannot just bankroll this industry themselves. So that's why, you know, we need some kind of a focus initiative that would say, where is this money going to, and how can we bring it back into research and development? Because all of these things that people mentioned, new aircrafts, operational, reduce this, we are all doing that. But unless we invest in research and development enough to bring a game-changing to the industry, nothing will happen.
So just a second question here. I mean, are you talking about will you buy hydrogen aircraft, electric aircraft if they're on the market? You will.
Of course we will, but if the price is affordable, if
Yes.
somebody said to me, you have to buy it,
Yes.
and it costs 10 times the other aircraft.
Yes, okay.
Hence why the research and development is important, that people can produce the technology faster and more efficiently for it to be compatible to
Okay.
what we have right now in terms of cost.
There's a really two really good points there. I think just investment in technology is needed, urgent, but it also needs to be affordable. So let's go to Turkey. So Turkey, should I say, to get it correct?
Yes, Turkey.
Okay. So the question for you is very, very simple. You know, will you meet your targets by 2035? And again, I want to say the same thing. And how? And then I'm going to bring Henrik in on sustainable aviation fuel.
Okay.
And I'm going to give him a hard time.
Iman, we have an interim target. We have an interim target put for 2030, and then we have joined the pledge for 2050. What I have to say, as all my colleagues have pointed out, yes, we have invested in our fleet. We use like Airbus 2021 NEOs, which has fuel efficiency about 15 to 17%.
Okay.
And so that helps the environment, that's for sure. So you minimize at the source. But as a result, there are lots of parties into this, lot of regulators. ATC, for example, for the route optimization, or the governmental bodies. SAF and carbon offsetting are the two other drivers to
Okay.
achieve those targets. And as long as we have, let me say, that SAF production to be locally or globally at the top of the agenda, and also other carbon offsetting projects, then let's strive for this. I mean, we put a target, then we should not just question it if it is reachable or not. We should spend all our efforts, put all our investment into it to reach there. But airlines are alone. I mean, airlines are discussing this. It shouldn't be that way. All the parties, all the governments
Okay.
should support this. Without SAF, that's not doable, isn't it? So we should be also deliberately working on this, and we should also have some support because it's too expensive now, because the production is very less.
Okay.
And the aircraft manufacturers.
All right.
That's also another party where we should see the efforts there.
Okay. So, Henrik, I'm coming to you. So, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 guys here have one thing in common. They run airlines, they're trying to make money, and they're really in the hard side of business, because running an airline is not an easy way to make money. And that's one thing for sure, it's tough. Now, can I ask you a couple of questions? Lufthansa said recently that they couldn't procure enough sustainable aviation fuel to fly their whole fleet for one day in the world. They couldn't do it. The current mandate from the Commission is 2% of a mix, right? And here's the problem. If you want to buy sustainable aviation fuel, you can't get it. And even if you can get it, it's 3 times the price. So you're not giving these guys the ammunition to sort the problem because you're not ambitious enough. So what's your reaction to that? You're basically taking the easy way out, low target, we can all achieve it.
Right. Look, I think that we need to put it in the big perspective first. I mean, clearly the sustainability is the license for the sector to grow, and that's not only something in Europe, but also gets much more traction around the globe. And I think that it's also something which the airlines are very well aware of, and also focusing much more on the sustainability aspects than perhaps in the past. And the second thing is that despite of the best efforts that the sector is going to do and continues to do or will do, in the next years to come, the relative share of aviation in the total emissions globally is going to grow. And that is, of course, something which will be difficult also to explain. It will be because of the demand, it will be because the measures will not give the immediate effect because there is no quick fix there. It is something which is a process, and it's going to take decades to get there. Now, coming to the issue of the different tools, then I think quite a lot was said already. We talk about the more performant engines, we talk about better airframes, we talk about also better aircrafts. I mean, this has happened also during the last, I would say, decade. I mean, we have better performing engines, we have, you know, the neo aircraft, we have the new type of more efficient aircraft models, but this has not been paired with a similar development on the fuel side. And many would say also it's a chicken and the egg problem. The pressure might have not been too strong. The price has also made a big difference there. And we haven't been putting enough pressure also on the fuel producers. And why is it so important? It is because it is the single most important measure in this big basket of measures of technological advancements and new type of propulsion systems and what have you. Then the sustainable aviation fuels, or SAFs, are going to be the tool which is going to help the aviation sector to decarbonize in the next decades to come. Now, the problem is that we come from a very low base. Depending how you calculate, you would say that the share of the SAFs today in the consumed jet fuel is something between 0.05 to 0.1%. Now, it is not something where you take out the magic wand and just, you know, hit it and suddenly you have 5%, 10%. You can put all kinds of very ambitious figures, but this has to be matched with the reality. What we also clearly understand is that the fuel producers will not be able to bring so much fuel in the market. I mean, our calculation is that if we will have in Europe by 2025 a 2% blend kerosene with the jet fuel, then this is already something which is quite ambitious, which will then ramp up to 5% in 2030. This is the most important thing. The difficult thing is to get the thing started. Now, what you need is massive investments also by the fuel producers to the new production plants, make it all sort of operational, industrialize. I created also the low carbon fuel and renewable fuel alliance, more than 200 members, the fuel producers, the users, everybody part of it, trying to help to industrialize that. We need to get that going. It's not, you know, what is the percentage in 2025? Is it 1, 2, 5, 10? The question is that between now and 2030, we have to have a economically sustainable and viable industry for the SAFs that is going to produce sufficient quantities for the sector to consume when it comes to it. And this is by no means going to be easy, because if we get it to 5% in 2030, from 5% to 30% is already much easier when you have all the sort of production and the incentives there. 2 quick points also in that context, which has been said. R&D, research and innovation, absolute must. We are doing quite a lot in that part as well. We have a special vehicle for the clean aviation, for the new propulsion system, putting billions also in order to help the research in that. We also have a special vehicle for the modernization of air traffic management, which digitalization and all this gives us better flight paths, which also helps to reduce the CO2 emissions. Okay. And just the last point on the, and of course it would be great if we could get some special vehicles which are, meaning you have collected taxes which you then put directly, for example, for the production of the SAFs. But usually the ministries of finance all around the world are not very easy to accept this kind of sort of earmarked revenues. And the very last point about the governments, and this is the fact that the governments obviously have to come in, and they also need to make sure that there is the incentivized environment for the industrialization of the production of the SAFs. But sometimes the governments are also doing a lot of lip service, and Damon, you know that very well. We could in Europe cut about 10% of the CO2 emissions in aviation very fast if we would fly more efficient flight paths, if we would deliver a single European sky and not some kind of a patchwork. All these governments who on one side are saying, well, we need to make aviation more sustainable, on the other hand are not giving us the tools by not agreeing to bringing it together.
Right, Henrik, that's it. Here. Now, I want to just give Abdul Wahab a chance to ask a nasty question. But before I ask the thing, I want you to think about something I'm going to say. We had a conference in Brussels recently. There were 300 people at the conference. And they were asked one simple question. How many of them had ticked the box and paid the €2.50 to offset the carbon on their price, on their flight? Less than 1%. So there's a certain point, about 2 points I want to leave with you, and I'm going to come back to you in a moment. One is, do the passengers really care? Is price the main determinant? Because in Europe at the moment, 6 months ago, everybody cared. Now we have a war in Ukraine, we have inflation, we have a lot of pressure with energy. People are not going there. So I saw a poll yesterday which said that the 3 trillion that the bill for sustainability is going to be, that people are starting to question it. It's not a 100% tick in the box that it was before. So I'm going to leave that there with you for a moment. Abdul Wahab.
First of all, I think you know me too well, because you said I'm going to ask a nasty question.
Come on.
And that nasty question is to Henrik.
Oh.
Henrik, if airlines do not actually have the 2% mandate to have the SAF 2% in their airplanes, you penalize the airlines. Why don't you, for instance, put a penalty on the fuel providers to tell them, if you don't produce so much SAF, then you will be penalized? I mean, why the penalty is on the ones who are using it but not on the ones who are producing it or are supposed to produce it.
Okay.
Abdul Wahab, I think that there is a misunderstanding because the target is not for the airlines. The target is actually for the fuel producers. It is to incentivize the fuel producers to bring the fuel in the market. Concerning the airlines, if the 2% blend is not there, the airlines are not obliged to uplift because they cannot uplift nothing. So it is not going to be that the airlines will be penalized. It is now the pressure purely put on the fuel producers to bring that fuel in the market.
Okay. So, sorry? Not in front. You push your microphone, please.
Not in France. The French government have instated a 1% SAF mix, and if an airline does not uplift that because the SAF producers have sold all of their stock to Air France for the next 5 years,
Okay.
they actually put
have
a penalty on
I
that.
have to disappoint you a bit on that as well, or rather on the contrary, because yesterday when we had meetings with the airline CEOs here, the issue was also raised, and I asked specifically my people to look into that. And they said that France hasn't made this into a legal obligation. We are also looking into this, and what we want to avoid is the kind of patchwork. What we want to have is a European framework where the member states will come in. We don't have the power to tell to the member states that they can't do it, but at least at the moment, the French have not yet started to apply that formally.
We'll take it offline. I just want to come back to the question I was going to ask. Do you guys believe, you four specifically, that your passengers are going to tick the box for the carbon offset? Now, your CEOs, you know the answer to this question, who's doing it at the moment? I mean, realistically, do passengers care as much as you think? So
No, they care, but they will not tick the box because nobody wants to pay more. So
Okay.
If you want to put a tax, just put it. It should not be a democratic tick.
Yeah.
They should not.
So you think it should be put on the ticket price, not they shouldn't have to volunteer, is that it?
Absolutely.
Okay. How about you? The mic, yeah, sorry.
So first of all, I think, I don't know what happened. You know?
That's okay. Okay, keep going.
I didn't
We have
pay
a
the
question
tax,
down there.
maybe. I didn't tick the box. Huh? First of all, we cannot be selfish by thinking about passing taxes to airlines or to passengers. We need to think about our kids and their kids because now sustainability is for life and it's not for us to make money or to pass on the burden. And I think this is what we don't understand when we start putting regulations that are just going to add cost.
Okay.
I love what Ghaith mentioned. Investment of R&D has to happen now by all the stakeholders because that's our responsibility to the future generations. Our kids today, they are worried about the quality of life that they will have to live as much as their kids and grandkids that we were never worried about.
Okay.
So now it's a responsibility and accountability more than it is ticking the box and who pays the 2% or who pays this fee. Now
Okay.
it's about sustainability of life. And that's the responsibility that we should carry as an industry as well as what other industries are doing.
Okay.
I mean, we're lucky, right? Our Abu Dhabi cares a lot about that, right? And Etihad cares a lot about sustainability. So, of course, there are customers that will care more and customers that will care less. I think that because we care and Abu Dhabi cares and our shareholder cares, it's our obligation to make sure we communicate to the generation to come and to current generation that doesn't care that much, so
Okay.
that they care. Because in the end, I'm more worried about legroom space
Okay.
than ticking a box, right? Because in the end, I could argue that if I reduce legroom space, I'm saving the world. You see what I mean? So it's a very complicated topic. I don't think it's only ticking or not
Okay.
ticking the box. But reality is we have stakeholders, especially in the region here, and I can speak on behalf of Etihad and on my shareholder, that we do care. and we're going to make whatever is possible for everyone to care as well.
Okay. Gulis, just a quick question for you, and then we go one to the floor, and then last quick fire. So, do you think with the inflation, with the war, that sustainability is falling a little bit off the agenda, or what do you think?
I think, yes, I think sustainability will be in the agenda on the top 3. Probably we will keep it because we all want to keep it for a better world. But of course the tensions, the geopolitical tensions, this macroeconomic environment also may have a delay on this very specific actions to follow. I mean, the appetite, the focus may come later. This may be delayed only. So it will not go out of the agenda, but we need very specific, very enthusiastic actions to achieve the targets. That may have a kind of a delay on that. I mean, because there is war, because there is geopolitical tensions all globally, recession also, it distracts, I think, the attention and the focus. But it will be on the agenda, definitely. We will keep it on the agenda.
Okay. Thank you very much. The chairman of Royal Air Maroc wanted to ask a question from the floor.
Well,
Go ahead.
actually, yes. Hi, everybody. Actually, it was a comment just for Henrik. Well, the measure has been implemented starting Jan 1st. I'm positive about this from the French airports, and it's a kind of tax. Let's face it. So maybe we need to work on this. There are official documents about this new form of taxation, and to me, this is anti-competition. We are obliged to have 1% SAF on each plane flying from France, and there's no way for us to buy SAF in France. So.
Okay. All right, so we're going to give Henrik a minute to respond to this, and then we're going to have a minute across here with a specific question. So he can't buy the SAF, and you're forcing him, you're going to tax him if he doesn't buy it. Explain that.
I cannot speak on behalf of France. I can only speak on what we are doing as the European Commission, and we have no intention to tax. I mean, this is something, the taxing is the responsibility of the member state and not the union responsibility. So there, the sovereignty lays with the member state. But if there is an anti-competitive issue, and we talked about it yesterday, we are more than happy to further look into it and make sure that we have raised it with the French authorities. But as I said also yesterday, we raised to our people who actually looked into that and said that as far as they are concerned, it is not something which is implemented directly, but you might be right from the point of view that it's implemented indirectly, which would add some costs. So let's follow up on that, and at least from the European perspective, I can only tell you, assure you, we don't want to have this patchwork. That is exactly the worst we can have. The best situation is that when you do business with Europe, you have the same rules which apply throughout the union and not specific rules in the member states. So we can definitely follow up on this.
Thank you, Henrik. Okay, so Antonaldo, I'm going to use a different question to each one. So at the moment, large manufacturers, example Boeing, are unable to deliver 737s on time. That's the reality. They're running a long time behind. Engine manufacturers are struggling to get engines out on time. Do you see this as a big constraint for you? Or what's your reaction to this whole situation? Now, they're probably going to stand up and say they're not on time, but I've got a big list of them here where they're not on time. What do you think?
I think it's a big constraint, and I know they're working hard to fix it. We are anxious. All the sector is anxious.
Yes.
And this is pre-COVID. Reality is that it was really hard 2018, 2019. So sometimes we blame everything for COVID, right? But reality is the issues that we're facing production lines, they come before COVID. And COVID just made it harder. So I think it's extremely important that it's fixed. I think it's going to be fixed, and I just pray for the best and that they solve their problems.
Okay, thank you very much. Ma'am, availability of SAF, particularly in your region here, what's your outlook in your view for you being able to power your aircraft on a reasonable amount of SAF by 2030?
No, listen, I think I want to, if you allow me, to
Yes.
go back to the previous question because it's an important question
A juicy one, yes.
to all of us. The plane is very complicated. And there is a reason why it's complicated, because it's built on 100% safety factor, which is the right way to do it. A mid-wide body has 1 million parts in it. If one microchip
Yes.
does not get delivered, a 20 euro microchip
Can stop.
does not get delivered on time,
Okay.
that plane is not going to be flying.
Okay.
So we need to go back to basics, make it simpler, work collectively with new technologies to enable us to deliver the planes on time and cost effectively. I
Okay.
think that has to happen. So this is, just building
All right.
on Antoine's cost.
Okay.
I think we've had enough discussion around ESG and what it is and what's going to happen. The fact of the matter is we are behind and we are committed.
All right. Thank you, man. Keith, the question I've been wanting to ask somebody from Dubai all evening is air taxis. Do you think that you can make money on air taxis in Dubai? And I see them, they've been advertised. I know it's not directly your area, but I just said somebody from Dubai are bursting to ask this question. Do you think this is a viable business, air taxis?
Well, I
The
think-
airport to the hotel.
Look, don't put anything beyond the people of the United Arab Emirates.
Yes?
If there's somebody who can do it, it's the people of the
They can
United
do
Arab
it.
Emirates. We are the people who will do it.
Will you travel in an air taxi?
Why not?
Okay, it's all right. So it's important. Okay, air taxis. So I just want to move to Turkey is a very
taxis are also
large
important for
market.
Istanbul.
Sorry?
Air taxis are also very critical for
Air
Istanbul.
taxis. Yeah. So
Valid.
my last question for you. Turkey is a large state, very, very large state, very close to all of us in Europe particularly.
Yeah.
Do you see an opening for Turkey to get involved in the single aviation market in Europe on a bilateral basis? Do you see this happening soon?
Actually, we had some
'Cause
discussions.
should be asking
very-
Henrik, but I
we
said
had-
I'd ask you.
Yes, we had discussions before COVID. I think it was like maybe 6-7 years ago. And Turkey had always very close bilateral contacts with the European Union
Yes.
states on bilateral basis. We have very liberal agreements, for example, Germany with UK also. I mean, yes, I see the opportunity there. Before COVID, we had an attempt, a very serious attempt, but it didn't materialize. And then we started again, but the COVID unfortunately paused the process. Now I think after COVID, we'll have both sides will be sitting together at the table to see how we can conclude a more liberal agreement, a single aviation sky or something else in a different form, which would be a win-win situation for
Okay.
both sides.
Okay.
There is an opportunity, definitely.
All right. Thank you. So, Henrik, we're going to give you the final word, but it's only got to be a minute. What are the top 3 things you would tell these 4 guys to make their business better? Top 3 things now. You got 1 minute. Clock is on now.
That's a tough one, Eamon. What can I tell these guys? They know everything.
Yeah, but come on. That's why we got you here.
Well, make aviation more sustainable, keep the markets open, and continue to work together, because working together is also the best way forward. We are maybe away from each other geographically, but I think that we have much more common that we have differences. So close cooperation is always the best remedy for good results.
That's very good, Henrik. So can I have a round of applause for our panel? Thank you very much, guys. And I pass you back to Abdul Wahib. Oh, to the chairman, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Well, thanks. Sorry, just well done. Hope I didn't annoy you too much. I hope I did.